The sun had just started rising over the small southern town of Elmswood. It was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody, and not much ever changed. Old brick buildings lined the main street, and the air smelled like pine trees and fresh biscuits. In the heart of town stood Maggie's Diner, a place that had been serving hot coffee and home-cooked meals for more than 40 years. The diner was quiet that morning. A few older men sat near the window, reading newspapers and talking about the weather. A waitress wiped down the counter, humming softly to the radio. The bell above the door jingled whenever someone came or left, and most mornings felt the same. Elmswood was proud of its soldiers. Photos of veterans hung on the diner's walls, some with medals pinned to their uniforms. But not all pride came without pain. The town had its secrets, its whispers, and its unfair truths. People didn't always say what they felt, but sometimes their silence spoke louder than words. Then the doorbell jingled again. Heads turned. A young black man stepped inside. He wore a crisp army uniform, boots clean, shoulders square. His eyes scanned the room. Some faces looked at him with curiosity. Others turned away. He walked to an empty booth and sat down, calm but alert. The room grew quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm. And behind the counter, the waitress stopped humming. The soldier sat tall in the booth, back straight, hands folded on the table. He looked young, maybe in his early 20s, but there was something in his eyes that made him seem older, like he had seen things most people hadn't. Things he didn't talk about. His name tag read J. Carter. His uniform was clean and pressed, with a patch showing he'd served overseas. On his chest, a small row of medals caught the morning light. The other customers glanced his way, but didn't say much. A man near the jukebox frowned and turned his head. A woman near the window pulled her purse closer. It wasn't loud or rude. It was quiet, subtle, but heavy. Carter didn't flinch. He had felt this kind of coldness before. He didn't come for trouble. He came for breakfast, and a moment of peace. The waitress behind the counter, her name was Linda, watched him carefully. She was in her 50s with stiff blonde curls and too much red lipstick. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't pick up her notepad. She didn't walk over. Minutes passed. Still nothing. Carter waited patiently, not moving, not demanding, but everyone could feel the tension. The air felt thicker, like the diner walls were closing in. Finally he looked toward the counter and gave a polite nod. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said. "May I see a menu?" Linda didn't answer. Instead she stepped out from behind the counter and slowly walked toward his table. Everyone in the diner watched. Forks paused in midair. Then she said it, clear and cold. "I think you'd be more comfortable somewhere else." The words hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the diner heard them, but no one said a word. Carter looked up at Linda, calm but surprised. "Ma'am?" he asked, his voice steady. Linda folded her arms. "You heard me," she said. "This ain't the place for your kind." A soft gasp came from a booth in the back. The teenage waitress standing near the kitchen froze, holding a pitcher of water in both hands. She looked at the soldier, then at Linda, unsure of what to do. Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't stand up. He sat there as if his stillness could hold the room together. "I served my country," he said. "Just got home last week. I'm just here for breakfast." Linda scoffed. "Don't matter to me. You're making people uncomfortable. I run this place how I see fit." At that moment, an elderly couple at the booth by the window slowly stood up. The woman shook her head at Linda as she picked up her purse. "We came here for peace," the old man said. "Not poison." They left without another word. Still Linda didn't budge. "You can take your boots and your medals and eat somewhere else," she snapped. "I'm not serving you." A man near the counter cleared his throat, like he was going to say something, but then didn't. His eyes dropped back to his plate. The room stayed quiet, too quiet. Carter reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a letter. The kind typed on official military letterhead. "I have a commendation here from my commanding officer," he said. "I'm proud of my service. I earned the right to sit here just like anybody else." Linda's lips curled. "Well, not in my diner, you didn't." The bell above the door rang again. Everyone turned to look. And just like that, everything changed. Before Carter could speak again, before anyone could react to the bell above the door, a memory slipped into his mind. Fast and sharp, like a sudden wind. It was 6 months ago, on a dusty road far from home. The heat was brutal, the ground shaking under his boots. He and his unit were on patrol in a small village overseas. The people there didn't speak much English, but fear spoke louder than words. A child had run into the road just as a truck came speeding through, and Carter didn't think. He just moved. He threw himself forward, grabbed the little boy, and rolled them both to safety. His arm got torn up on the rocks. He bled through his sleeve, but didn't care. The child was safe. Later that week, his commanding officer called him in. "You've got guts," the officer said, pressing a medal into his hand, "and heart. We need more men like you." Carter didn't ask for praise. He wasn't in it for glory. He missed his mom's cooking. He missed his hometown. Even with all its flaws, it was still home, and now he was here, back in the town where he was born, where he played football in high school, where he helped his grandfather mow the lawn every Sunday. His grandfather had been a soldier too, fought in World War II, came back and faced the same looks Carter was facing now. Carter used to think things would be better for him, but sitting in that diner, with Linda standing over him like he didn't belong, it felt like time hadn't moved at all. He blinked and the memory faded. The present returned. The bell above the door was still ringing. Someone had just walked in. The bell above the door let out one last soft jingle before the silence returned. Everyone in the diner looked up. Standing in the doorway was a tall woman in a navy blue suit. Her silver hair was neatly pinned back, and a small pin with the town seal rested on her lapel. It was Mayor Evelyn Brooks. She didn't walk in like a customer. She walked in like she belonged, because she did. For the last 10 years, she had been the heart and backbone of Elmswood. Fair, strong, and not afraid to speak her mind. People respected her, even if they didn't always agree with her. Linda's face went pale. Her arms dropped to her sides as the mayor's eyes swept the room. Then the mayor smiled. Not Linda. At Carter. "Jason," she said gently. Carter stood up. His voice was careful. "Yes, ma'am." Mayor Brooks walked over and wrapped her arms around him. "Look at you," she said warmly. "You came home." Carter's face finally relaxed. "Yes, ma'am, just for a little while." The room was frozen. Nobody knew what to say. The mayor turned to Linda. Her smile vanished. "Is there a reason this young man is standing instead of eating?" Linda stammered. "Shh. I didn't think. I mean he." The mayor raised a hand, silencing her. "He's a soldier. He's a son of this town, and he's my godson." The last word hit like a thunderclap. Gasps moved across the room. Even the man at the counter looked up. Mayor Brooks stepped beside Carter and looked around. "If he's not welcome here, then neither am I." Carter said nothing. He didn't need to. The mayor had said everything for him, and with her standing beside him, he no longer felt alone. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, the teenage waitress stepped forward. Her hands were still shaking a little, but she walked over to Carter's booth and gently placed a menu on the table. Then she went back to the counter and poured a fresh cup of coffee. She brought it to him without a word, just a small nod. Carter gave her a quiet thank you. Her cheeks turned pink, but she smiled. The mayor stayed standing, arms crossed, eyes locked on Linda. A man near the counter grumbled under his breath. "Town's changing too fast," he muttered. Mayor Brooks turned toward him. "Good, change is long overdue." He looked away, pretending to focus on his food. One of the older women in the back booth, someone who'd lived in Elmswood her whole life, finally spoke. "My grandson's in the Navy," she said. "If someone treated him like this, I'd be heartbroken." Others nodded. A quiet wave of agreement passed through the diner. Linda stood stiff, arms crossed again. "This isn't about race," she said sharply. "It's about keeping things normal." The mayor raised her eyebrows. "Then maybe it's time we change what normal looks like." Linda's mouth opened like she had more to say, but no words came out. Just then, a door creaked open in the back of the diner. The owner, Mr. Hal Bennett, a quiet man who usually stayed behind the scenes, stepped out. He looked tired, like he had been listening for a while. "Evelyn," he said to the mayor, then turned to Carter. "Son, I'm sorry." Linda turned to him. "Hal." But he didn't look at her. "Enough is enough," he said. Mayor Brooks took a step forward, her voice calm but firm. "I came here today to speak with you, Hal," she said to the owner, "about the town's catering contract for the Veterans Memorial event next month." Linda's face lit up slightly, hopeful. The diner had catered that event for years. It brought in good money and attention. But the mayor's next words were sharp and clear. "You've just lost it." Gasps echoed again. Linda's smile vanished. Hal's eyes widened. "Wait, Evelyn." The mayor didn't flinch. "You let this happen in your business. A decorated soldier treated like trash. Not just any soldier, someone I helped raise. I won't support a place that turns away heroes." Carter's eyes dropped to the table. Not out of shame, but disbelief. He had expected silence. "Not this." Linda's voice trembled now. "We didn't mean." But Hal cut her off. "No," he said. "I did mean to stay quiet. And that was my mistake." He turned to Linda. And for the first time didn't hesitate. "You're done here, Linda. Clean out your locker." She froze. Her mouth opened and shut, but nothing came out. Hal looked back at Carter, sincere. "I'm sorry for how you were treated. This diner doesn't stand for hate. Not anymore." The room was silent again, but it felt different this time. Not tense. Lighter. Like something ugly had been pulled out by the roots. Carter sat back down slowly. His hands were still folded. His face calm, but his eyes glistened just a little. The young waitress returned with a plate of pancakes and eggs. "On the house," she whispered. Her voice soft but steady. Mayor Brooks stayed by his side, sipping her own coffee now. The anger in her had cooled, but not the strength. "You don't owe us thanks," she said to Carter. "We owe you." He nodded, but the words caught in his throat. One by one, customers came up to pay their bills. And as they left, some paused to nod at Carter. A few shook his hand. An older woman even placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Welcome home." Outside, the morning sun had risen higher in the sky. It poured through the windows, lighting up the little diner like a stage. Linda was gone. The air was lighter. Still the same town. Still Elmswood. But somehow a corner of it had changed. As Carter ate, the mayor sat across from him, talking about his mother, his plans, his hopes. They laughed. It was quiet and small and ordinary. The way dignity often is. The bell above the door jingled again. But this time, no one tensed up. The narrator's voice returns with one final thought. Change doesn't always come in marches or speeches. Sometimes it walks in wearing a uniform, sits down quietly, and waits to be seen. And sometimes it's the ones who walk in behind them that make all the difference. If this story moved you, take a moment to like the video. It helps us share more powerful stories like this one. Comment below. What would you have done if you were in that diner? And don't forget to subscribe for more real emotional stories that reveal the truth about our world. One moment at a time.